I found out my mother was willing to have me arrested while my dad was still alive. Not figuratively, not emotionally, literally. I was standing in the hallway outside the ICU holding a paper cup of burnt coffee when I heard her voice coming from my sister's phone on speaker. My mom didn't know I was there. She was talking fast, angry, like she'd already practiced the sentence. If she shows up, call security, tell them she's trespassing. She doesn't get to see him after what she's done. And my sister, my own sister, just said, okay. That was the moment my stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up on the hospital floor. Because up until then, I still believed, stupidly, that whatever was happening between us was just stress, grief, fear. But you don't accidentally threaten your child with police in a hospital. You do that when you've decided they're not family anymore. My name is Renee, 29F. I'm a dental assistant. The kind who smiles all day until your cheeks ache, and then you go home and stare at the wall because you're too drained to feel anything else. I live in a small apartment in a quiet part of town with my fiancée Jordan, 31 as small, who works in IT and has this steady calmness I never realized I needed until I had it. My family from the outside looks like one of those normal middle-class families people assume are fine. My dad, Tom, 62, was a mechanic for most of his life. Hands always stained, jokes always bad, but he'd drop everything if you called him. My mom, Kathy, 59, is the kind of woman who keeps receipts from 2007 just in case, who knows everyone's business and who treats emotions like something you can scold out of a person. I have an older sister, Dana, 34F. She's the firstborn, the organizer, the family spokesperson, the one my mom calls my rock. Donna is also the kind of person who can smile while she's making you feel small, and if you call it out, she'll tilt her head and say, I'm just being honest. Growing up, I was the easy one. Not because life was easy for me, because I learned early that if I didn't make noise, I didn't get punished for it. My dad and I were close in this quiet way. He'd pick me up from school and let me choose the radio station. He'd bring me fries from the gas station for no reason. When my mom and Dana were arguing in the kitchen, he'd find me in my room and do that soft knock on the door like, "You okay, kiddo?" I always thought that meant we were safe, that no matter how sharp my mom could be, my dad was the glue that kept us from flying apart. And then, one Wednesday afternoon in late October, my dad had a stroke. It wasn't dramatic in the way TV shows make it. No cinematic collapse. My mom called me at work, voice tight, saying, "Your father's in the hospital. You need to come now." I remember wiping my hands on my scrubs and driving there with my heart punching my ribs. Jordan met me in the parking lot because he had the sense to leave work and show up without asking. When we got inside, Dana was already there. She had my mom's purse on her shoulder like she'd been drafted into a position. My mom's eyes were red and fierce. My dad was behind a curtain, machines beeping like an awful metronome. For the first 2 days, everything was pure shock. We cried. We whispered. We stared at doctors like they were going to tell us what to do to fix it. We took turns sitting next to him and talking to him, even when he couldn't really respond. On day 3, the shock started turning into something else. Control. Dana started making decisions without asking. She spoke to nurses like she was already in charge. My mom began saying things like, "We need to handle paperwork." I should have realized right then, but I didn't, because I was still living in that old mental place where family meant your feelings didn't matter. It meant you stayed quiet and let the loudest person lead. The first real crack happened when I tried to visit my dad alone. It was early morning. The hospital hallway smelled like disinfectant and stale oatmeal. My mom and Dana weren't there yet, so I thought it was safe. I walked into my dad's room, sat down, and held his hand. His fingers twitched, and I swear to God, maybe I imagined it, maybe not, I felt him squeeze back. I leaned in and whispered, "Hey, Dad, I'm here." And then, behind me, I heard Dana's voice. "What are you doing?" I turned. Dana stood in the doorway, arms crossed like I was caught stealing something. "I'm visiting Dad," I said, confused. Dana's eyes flicked to my hand on his. "Mom said we're limiting visits. He needs rest." My throat tightened. Limiting? Since when? Dana walked in and lowered her voice like she was trying to sound compassionate. "Renee, we can't have chaos. The doctor said stimulation can be bad." I stared at her. "It's not chaos. I'm his daughter." Dana's smile was small and cold. "So am I." That would have been weird enough by itself, but then my mom showed up 10 minutes later and immediately sided with Dana. "You need to listen," Mom said like I was 12 and refusing vegetables. "Dana's handling things. You get emotional." I felt my face heat. "I get emotional? My dad is—" "Exactly," Mom snapped. "You can't think clearly." Jordan was outside the room, waiting, and I remember seeing him through the glass and feeling this weird shame, like I was embarrassed for him to witness my family treating me like I was unstable. I left that day shaking, but still telling myself it was stress. Then the paperwork started. A week after the stroke, Dana created a group chat called Dad Care Plan. It was me, Dana, Mom, and Jordan, which already felt like a message. Jordan is included so he can see what kind of person I am. Dana pinned a message with bullet points, like she was running a project at work. Visiting hours, rehab options, bills, legal. My stomach tightened every time I saw the word. One evening, Dana texted, "Dana, we need to meet tomorrow to sign some documents. 6 p.m. at Mom's." I replied, "Me. What documents?" Dana. Power of attorney plus hospital consent stuff. Standard." My mom jumped in. "Mom, don't overthink. Just be there." Jordan read it over my shoulder and said quietly, "Renee, power of attorney isn't standard." I felt a little chill crawl up my neck. "Dana said it's standard." Jordan didn't push. He just said, "Let's read everything before you sign." So we went. My mom's house felt the same as always. Too many candles, too many family photos, everything arranged like a museum of "we're fine." Dana had a folder on the table. My mom had tea ready. Like this was a casual family hangout and not a legal meeting about my dad's life. Dana slid the papers toward me with a pen already placed on top, like a little trap. "Sign here," she said. I flipped through. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not even close. But I know what words mean. This wasn't just hospital consent. This was durable power of attorney, medical and financial. And the way it was written gave Dana enormous authority. My heart started beating faster. "Why does this say I'm waiving my rights?" Dana smiled like I was adorable. "It's just language. It means Dana can act fast. We don't have time to get everyone's approval." I looked at my mom. "Why do we need this? Dad can still—" Mom cut me off. "Your father can't make decisions right now. Dana is capable." Jordan leaned forward. "Why isn't it joint? Why not both daughters?" Dana's eyes flashed annoyance for half a second before she smoothed her expression. "Because joint slows everything down. Renee struggles with stress. You know that." My throat burned. "I don't struggle with stress. I'm just not trying to take over Dad's life." Mom's face hardened. "Renee, don't make this difficult. Your sister is stepping up." There it was again. The narrative. Dana is stepping up. Renee is difficult. I pushed the papers back. "I'm not signing this tonight." Silence. My mom's jaw tightened. "Excuse me. I want to have a lawyer look at it," I said, voice shaking but firm. Dana leaned back like she'd been waiting for this moment. "A lawyer? Really? We're trying to help Dad and you're turning it into drama." Jordan spoke calmly. "It's not drama. It's responsible." My mom snapped. "Jordan, stay out of this." I felt something inside me go cold, like a switch flipping. Because the second my mom said that, it wasn't about Dad. It was about control. It was about who gets to speak. I stood up. "We're leaving." My mom's voice rose. "If you walk out, you're showing exactly why you can't be trusted." Dana's voice was quieter, more poisonous. Don't worry, Mom. We'll handle it. We left. In the car, I started crying in that ugly, frustrated way where you can't catch your breath. Jordan reached over and held my hand. I'm scared, I whispered. I know, he said, but you did the right thing. That night, my mom called 12 times. I didn't answer. Dana texted, Dana, if you're not going to cooperate, you're going to regret it. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Then my mom texted, Mom, you are breaking my heart. After all I've done for you. It was like she had a script. And the worst part, my body still reacted the way it always had. Guilt, panic, the urge to fix it. But underneath all that, something else started growing. Anger. Not explosive anger. The kind that sits in your chest and gets heavier every time you swallow it. 2 days later, I went to visit Dad again. During the hours Dana had approved in the group chat, I brought his favorite peppermint gum, even though he couldn't chew it because it made me feel like I was doing something. When I got to the floor, the receptionist frowned at her screen. I'm sorry, she said, polite but firm. You're not on the approved visitors list. I blinked. What? I'm his daughter. She looked uncomfortable. The authorized decision maker limited visitors. My face went numb. Who is the authorized decision maker? She hesitated. Dana. I felt the room tilt. How is she the authorized decision maker? I whispered. The receptionist gave me that careful look people give when they think you might cause a scene. There's paperwork on file. Paperwork? The paperwork I hadn't signed? I walked out to the stairwell because I couldn't breathe. Jordan had stayed in the car. I called him with shaking hands. They did it, I said, voice cracking. They filed something. Dana's in charge. Jordan's voice sharpened. Did your dad sign it before the stroke? I don't know, I said, panicked. I don't know. Jordan said, Okay. Breathe. We're getting an attorney. Today. We did? We met with a lawyer named Marcia who had kind eyes and a blunt voice. She listened, asked questions, and then said something that made my blood run cold. Sometimes families file emergency guardianship or present prior documents. Sometimes documents appear. I swallowed. Are you saying they could have... Marcia held up a hand. I'm saying we need to request copies. Immediately. So we did. And when the copies came in a week later, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at a document that had my father's name on it, and a signature that looked like someone had tried to copy his handwriting from memory. Jordan stood behind me, hands on my shoulders, and I felt him go rigid. That doesn't look like him, Jordan said quietly. It didn't. My dad's signature was messy, but confident, like he was always in a hurry. This signature was shaky, slow, wrong. I felt nausea rise up my throat. Oh my God. I didn't want to believe my mother and sister would forge something, but I also didn't want to believe my own mother would threaten to have me arrested at the hospital. And yet, here we were. I confronted Dana first, because part of me still wanted my mom to be redeemable. I called Dana and said, "Wait, where did this document come from?" Dana didn't even pretend to be confused. Dad signed it months ago. That's not his signature, I said, my voice shaking. Dana sighed like I was exhausting. Renee, you're spiraling. You need to stop. Stop gaslighting me, I snapped. I know what Dad's signature looks like. Dana's voice hardened. Watch your tone. I laughed, but it sounded like a sob. Are you serious? Dana said, low and clear. If you keep pushing, we'll cut you out completely. My mouth went dry. Cut me out of what? Dana paused, then said, like she couldn't help herself, the estate, the house, everything. There it was. The truth, slipping out. It wasn't about Dad's care. It was about what comes after Dad. I hung up and sat there trembling. Jordan crouched in front of me. Renee, we're dealing with something bigger than an argument. I whispered. My family is stealing my father. And the words tasted like poison. A few days later, I went to the hospital anyway. I wasn't on the list, but I thought maybe if I asked to speak to the charge nurse, maybe if I explained, maybe if I cried in the right way, someone would let me through. That's what people like me do. We look for loopholes that don't require conflict. I got off the elevator and walked toward the desk, and that's when I heard my mother's voice from the hallway. She was on speakerphone with Dana, and my mom said the sentence that changed everything. If she shows up, call security, tell them she's trespassing. I stopped walking. My whole body went cold. I felt like I was outside of myself watching. I stepped back behind the corner, heart pounding, and listened. Dana said, "She keeps trying." Mom said, "She wants to make this about her. She always does." Dana replied, "If she sees him, she'll manipulate him." My mother said with a bitterness I had never heard from her before, "She's not going to ruin this. We've come too far. Too far." Like my dad's illness was a plan they were executing. I stood there shaking, my nails digging into my palms, until the call ended and Dana walked away down the hall. I could have stepped out and screamed. I could have confronted them right there. Instead, I walked into the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and cried silently like a child. Because even at that moment, part of me still couldn't accept it. Part of me kept whispering, maybe they're scared. Maybe they're trying to protect him. Maybe you're overreacting. And then I remembered Dana's words, the estate, the house, everything. I washed my face, came out, and walked straight to the elevator. Jordan was waiting in the car. When I got in, he took one look at me and said, "What happened?" I stared forward and said, "My mom told Dana to call the police on me." Jordan's face changed into something I'd never seen, pure rage, tightly controlled. "Overseeing your own father?" I nodded. Jordan exhaled, shaking. "Okay, that's it." We went home and called Marcia. Marcia listened and said, "We can file an emergency petition to challenge guardianship and request a handwriting expert." The words sounded unreal, like we were in a courtroom drama. But it was my life. Over the next 2 weeks, I lived in a constant state of adrenaline. I went to work and smiled at patients and cleaned teeth while my mind screamed. I would go into the supply closet and cry for 2 minutes, wipe my face, and come back out, pretending I was fine. My mom sent messages that swung between love and cruelty like a pendulum. "I miss you. You're making this harder. Why are you doing this to your father? If you loved him, you'd stop fighting." Dana sent fewer messages, but each one felt like a knife. "You're embarrassing yourself. Everyone thinks you're unstable. Jordan is controlling you." They even started contacting Jordan's parents, like this was a smear campaign. One night, Jordan's mom called and said, confused, "Renee, your mom says you're having a breakdown." I felt my ears ring. "A breakdown," I repeated. Jordan took the phone and said very calmly, "She's not having a breakdown. Your son's future mother-in-law is trying to steal her father's estate." Then he hung up and hugged me while I shook. I kept thinking, how did it get this far? And the answer was always the same. Because I was the easy one. Because I always let things slide. Because my family learned that if they pushed, I would fold. But here's the thing about folding. Eventually, you get tired of living creased. The court date came faster than I expected. We filed. Dana and my mom responded through their lawyer with a statement that basically painted me as emotionally unstable and estranged. Estranged. I wanted to scream. I'd never missed a birthday. I'd never stopped showing up. I'd never estranged myself. They were rewriting history in real time. The day before the hearing, Dana texted, "Dana, last chance, drop it. Mom will let you visit if you stop this." I stared at the word "let," like visiting my father was a privilege they granted. I felt something in me harden completely. I typed back, "You don't get to hold my dad hostage." Dana replied, "You're going to lose, and when you do, don't come crying." I showed Jordan. He didn't say anything. He just reached over and took my hand like he was anchoring me. At the hearing, Dana showed up in a blazer like she was going to a job interview. My mom wore a necklace my dad bought her years ago and dabbed at her eyes dramatically.
They looked like victims. I felt like I was going to throw up. Our lawyer spoke, their lawyer spoke. Documents were shown, questions were asked.
Then the judge asked me directly, "Why do you believe your father's signature is not authentic?" My voice shook, but I told the truth. I explained how my dad signed. I described the difference. I said I just wanted access to my father and transparency. My mom shook her head like I was delusional. Dana stared straight ahead, expression tight. And then the judge did something that made the air leave my lungs. She ordered an independent review. She ordered that I be granted supervised visitation pending investigation. She ordered a handwriting analysis. It wasn't a victory. Not yet. But it was the first time in weeks that someone in authority looked at me and didn't assume I was crazy. In the hallway afterward, my mom cornered me. Her face was red with anger, but her voice was low, controlled, dangerous. "You've humiliated me," she hissed. I stared at her. "You tried to have me arrested." Mom's eyes flashed. "You forced my hand." I blinked, stunned. "You're blaming me for your threats." My mom leaned closer. "If you keep going, you'll lose your family." I felt tears burn, but I didn't let them fall. "I already did," I whispered. Dana walked up then, eyes hard. "You're dead to me." I didn't answer, because anything I said would become ammunition. Jordan stepped between us and said, "We're done here." We left. 2 days later, I got to see my dad. I walked into his room with my heart hammering like it wanted to escape my chest. He looked smaller than I remembered. Pale, one side of his face slightly slack, but his eyes were still my dad's. I sat down beside him and said, "Hi, Dad." His hand moved slowly, clumsy, but he reached toward mine. When our fingers touched, I broke. I cried, quietly, with my forehead resting on the edge of the bed. "I'm here," I whispered. I'm so sorry it took me so long." My dad made a sound, half breath, half word. He squeezed my fingers, weak but real, and in that moment, I knew something with a certainty that felt like lightning. I was not crazy. I was not dramatic. I was fighting for something real. After that, things moved in a slow, exhausting crawl. The handwriting analysis took time. Paperwork took time. Everything took time. And meanwhile, my family acted like I didn't exist, except as a problem. I got one voicemail from my mom that I'll never forget. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "Renee," she said, "if you stop this now, we can forgive you. Forgive me." Like I'd committed a crime by refusing to be erased. That was the voicemail I saved. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed proof, even for myself, that I wasn't imagining the insanity. A month later, Marcia called. "We got the preliminary results," she said. My heart jumped into my throat. "And?" A pause. "It's inconsistent with your father's known signature patterns." I sank onto the couch so hard my knees hurt. Jordan's face went white. "What does that mean?" he mouthed. Marcia continued. "It means there's enough concern that the court is taking this seriously." I couldn't speak. I just held the phone and stared at the wall as tears spilled down my face. Not relief tears, grief tears. Because even if the court ruled in my favor, even if I got access, even if everything was fixed legally, nothing would ever be the same. How do you go back to normal after you learn your mother might have forged your father's signature? How do you sit at a holiday table and pretend the person passing you mashed potatoes didn't try to erase you from your father's life? 2 weeks later, Dana messaged me for the first time in a while. "Dana, you happy now?" I stared at it and I realized I wasn't happy. Not even close. So I typed back the only honest answer. "No, I'm devastated." Dana didn't reply. My dad is still recovering. He has good days and bad days. Some days he can say my name. Some days he just stares and looks tired. But when I visit, he knows I'm there. I can see it. My mom hasn't visited during my times. Dana hasn't either. They've created a separate reality where they're the heroes and I'm the villain. And maybe they'll live there forever. Here's what I did, ultimately. The decision that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. I went no contact with my mother and my sister. Not as a dramatic announcement. Not as a social media post. Just a quiet wall. I blocked their numbers. I told Marcia that all communication goes through legal channels. I told the hospital staff to call security if they tried to approach me during visits. It felt surreal, like I was becoming the very thing they accused me of being: cold, difficult, dramatic. But then one night I was sitting on my couch with Jordan and I realized something that made me cry in this exhausted, quiet way. For the first time in months, I could breathe. No buzzing phone, no guilt bombs, no threats wrapped in love. Just air. Just silence. Just me. I don't know what my family will look like when my dad is stable again. I don't know if he'll ever fully understand what happened while he was fighting to come back to himself. I don't know if he'll be angry. I don't know if he'll be heartbroken. But I do know what I learned. What I wish someone had shaken into me years ago. Some families don't love you as a person. They love you as a role. And when you stop playing that role, when you stop being quiet, stop adjusting, stop letting them rewrite your reality, they don't ask, "Why are you hurting?" They ask, "How dare you disobey?" I used to think loyalty meant swallowing pain to keep peace. Now I think loyalty means refusing to participate in your own erasure. And the last thing I realized, maybe the hardest thing, is this. The moment my mother told my sister to call the police on me, she didn't just threaten me, she showed me exactly how far she would go, so I went farther. I chose my dad, I chose the truth, I chose myself. And if that makes me the villain in their story, I can live with that. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not living on my knees.